The decision to board the vengeful spirit was made in the innermost chambers of the imperial palace, with what remained of Terra's command structure gathered around the emperor. Rogel Dorn argued against it. The War Master's flagship was surely filled with traps and ambushes, and the Emperor's presence was needed on Terra to maintain the psychic wards containing the demonic breach. But the Emperor understood what Dorn did not. Reinforcements were hours away, but the palace's defenses were on the verge of total collapse. If Horus was not stopped now, the traitors would break through before Guilliman arrived, and Terra would fall regardless. More than that, the Emperor understood that this confrontation had always been inevitable. From the moment the Chaos Gods had stolen his infant sons and scattered them across the galaxy, this outcome had been written in the stars. Horus was not merely a rebellious general. He was the instrument through which the ruinous powers sought to destroy the Emperor's vision for humanity. This was never going to end with battlefield victories and strategic withdrawals. It would end with father and son, face to face, one of them triumphant and one destroyed. The Emperor selected his boarding party with care. Rogel Dorn would come, as would a company of his finest imperial fists. The custodian guard, the Emperor's personal bodyguards who had stood at his side since the Unification Wars, would accompany him. And Sanguinius insisted on coming, despite his wounds from the battle at the Eternity Wall. The angel knew this was where his visions culminated, aboard the vengeful spirit, facing his brother Horus for the final time. Curiously, one more warrior joined them, a simple Space Marine Terminator from the Imperial Fists, a veteran named Olanius Pius according to some accounts, though records are fragmentary and contradictory. But the legends say he stood with the Emperor at the end, and sometimes legends carry deeper truths than facts. The teleportation was fraught with danger. The warp was turbulent, and chaos entities sought to intercept the Emperor's party as they translated through the immaterium. The teleport chambers of the palace blazed with psychic light as the Emperor's will protected his warriors from demonic predation. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, they hung suspended between reality and the warp. Then they materialized aboard the vengeful spirit. Immediately, they knew something was wrong. The boarding party had been scattered across the ship rather than arriving together. Horus had somehow manipulated the teleportation itself, separating the boarding party into isolated groups throughout his flagship. It was exactly the trap Dorn had feared. The vengeful spirit was no longer the proud warship it had been during the Great Crusade. 8 years of worship to the dark gods had transformed it into something else, a fusion of metal and flesh, technology and sorcery. The corridors writhed with organic matter, faces pressed out from the walls, screaming silently. The air itself was thick with malevolence, as if the ship had become a living extension of Horus's corrupted will. Dorn and his imperial fists found themselves fighting through nightmare corridors filled with possessed space marines and demon engines. Every step forward was bought with blood. Separate groups of the boarding party fought desperately to reunite, to reach the bridge where Horus surely waited. But Sanguinius and the Emperor found themselves together, and their path led them inexorably toward the ship's throne room. The throne room of the vengeful spirit had once been a place of martial glory. Now it had been transformed into a temple to chaos, its walls covered in blasphemous sigils, its floor slick with blood from countless sacrifices. Demonic entities flickered at the edges of perception, and at the center of it all stood Horus. The War Master was barely recognizable as the hero he had once been. His armor was no longer the proud white and green of the Luna Wolves, but black as the void, covered with the eight-pointed star of chaos undivided. He had grown in stature, empowered by the dark gods until he was more than a mere Primarch. He was an avatar of chaos's might in the material realm. Power radiated from him in waves that distorted reality itself. When Sanguinius entered the throne room, Horus smiled, a terrible expression on his transfigured features. "Brother," Horus said, his voice carrying harmonics that had not been there before. "You don't have to die here. Join me. You've seen the same visions I have. You know how this ends. The Emperor's dream is ashes, but together we could build something better from the ruins." Sanguinius drew his blade, the spear of Telesto gleaming in the unnatural light. "You were the best of us, Horus, the brightest star of the Imperium, and you threw it all away for lies and empty promises. I will not join you. I will not bow to the ruinous powers. If I am to die here, then I die as I lived, loyal to our Father and to humanity." "Then you are a fool," Horus replied, and the smile vanished. "So be it." They clashed at the center of the throne room, two Primarchs, two demigods fighting with speed and skill that would have been invisible to mortal eyes. Sanguinius was wounded, exhausted from weeks of constant battle, but he fought with the fury of an angel of vengeance. His blade found gaps in Horus's armor, drawing blood that steamed and hissed where it struck the corrupted floor. But Horus was empowered by all four Chaos gods, and he was fighting in the heart of his own power. He wielded the talon of Horus, a terrible power claw, and Worldbreaker, a mace that could shatter tank armor. Every blow he landed sent Sanguinius reeling. Slowly, inevitably, the angel was being beaten down. In a final, desperate gambit, Sanguinius launched himself at Horus's face. For a fraction of a second he succeeded. The spear of Telesto pierced Horus's face, leaving a wound that would never fully heal. It was a small victory, a tiny chink in the War Master's seemingly invincible armor. But it was not enough. Horus caught Sanguinius by the throat, his strength so great that even a Primarch could not break free. The angel struggled, his wings beating frantically, but Horus's grip was inexorable. With a contemptuous twist, the War Master broke Sanguinius's back over his knee. The angel's wings, once so beautiful, hung at broken angles. Horus raised the angel's body above his head, then dashed him to the ground. The psychic backlash of Sanguinius's death rippled across the galaxy. Every blood angel, wherever they fought, felt their father die. Sanguinius was dead, the brightest and most beloved of the Primarchs, murdered by his own brother. But his sacrifice had achieved something crucial. He had bought time for the Emperor to arrive, and he had proven that Horus, for all his power, could still be wounded. The Emperor entered the throne room to find his most beloved son dead at his traitorous son's feet. For a moment, just a moment, the Emperor's perfect composure cracked. The grief and rage that crossed his face would have incinerated a mortal with its intensity. But then the mask of control returned, and the Emperor advanced to face Horus. "Did you think I would not come?" the Emperor asked, his voice quiet but carrying infinite weight. "I knew you would come," Horus replied, stepping over Sanguinius's corpse. "This is where it ends, Father. This is where your dream dies and a new age begins." "You speak of dreams," the Emperor said, "but you serve nightmares. The powers you've pledged yourself to care nothing for you, Horus. You are a tool to them, nothing more. When they are done with you, they will discard you, as easily as you discarded your oaths. Better to rule in hell than serve in heaven," Horus snarled. "I learned my lesson, Father. I learned what you taught me, that power is all that matters, and now I have power enough to rival even you." They came together like colliding suns. The duel between the Emperor and Horus transcended physical combat. It was fought simultaneously on multiple levels: the physical, the psychic, the metaphysical. When the Emperor's flaming sword clashed with Horus's talon, the shockwaves shattered the deck plating beneath them. When they exerted their psychic might against each other, reality itself screamed. Horus was empowered by all four Chaos Gods. He was faster than any Primarch had a right to be, stronger than a dreadnought. He hammered at the Emperor with blows that would have vaporized lesser beings. But the Emperor was the greatest psychic power in the galaxy. He was not merely fighting Horus, he was fighting the Chaos Gods themselves. The throne room became an arena of apocalyptic destruction. The walls melted under the heat of the Emperor's psychic fury. Yet, for all his might, the Emperor held back. Even now, even facing the embodiment of everything he had fought against, he could not bring himself to destroy his son completely. He still hoped, in some deep part of his consciousness, that Horus could be redeemed. Horus sensed this hesitation and exploited it ruthlessly. He pressed his advantage, landing blow after devastating blow. The Emperor's armor began to crack. Golden blood seeped from wounds. For the first time in recorded history, the Emperor was being beaten in single combat. At this critical moment, when the Emperor staggered under Horus's assault, a single space marine entered the throne room. Some say it was an imperial fist named Olanius Pius. Others claim it was a custodian guard. The identity matters less than what happened next. This lone warrior, seeing the Emperor on the verge of defeat, did the only thing he could do. He stepped between the Emperor and Horus, placing his fragile body between demigods, knowing with absolute certainty that he was about to die. "Stand aside," Horus commanded, momentarily confused by this interruption. The warrior raised his weapon and fired at the War Master. The shot was as futile as throwing stones at a mountain. It did no damage whatsoever. Horus laughed, and the sound was filled with chaos-tainted mirth. With a casual gesture, he obliterated the warrior, not just killed him, unmade him. Body, soul, and spirit were destroyed so completely that nothing remained, not even atoms. And in that moment, the Emperor understood the true depth of Horus's fall. This was not his son corrupted but redeemable. The being before him had become a puppet of chaos so completely that he would casually annihilate a brave soul for no reason other than contempt. The Horus the Emperor loved was gone. The Emperor's hesitation evaporated like morning mist before the sun. When the Emperor rose to face Horus again, something had changed. The indemonable compassion was replaced by grim necessity. He loved his son, but he loved humanity more. The Emperor unleashed his full psychic might. It was nothing the galaxy had witnessed. The sheer psychic power that blazed forth was beyond mortal comprehension. Horus tried to resist. The four dark gods poured their strength into their champion, but they had made a critical mistake. By empowering Horus so completely, they had made him a conduit, and the Emperor exploited that connection. His psychic assault didn't just target Horus, it traveled through him to strike at the Chaos Gods themselves. In that instant of distraction, the Emperor struck. His psychic blow sundered Horus's connection to the warp. Suddenly, Horus was just a Primarch again. The Emperor pressed his advantage, his flaming sword piercing Horus's armor and driving deep into his chest. His psychic might tore into Horus's very soul, burning away the corruption of chaos. It was not merely a killing blow, it was annihilation. The Emperor ensured Horus's soul would never be reborn. For just a moment, as his soul burned away, Horus's eyes cleared, the corruption lifted. "Father," he whispered, his voice his own again, "what have I done?" Then he was gone, his soul obliterated so completely that even the Chaos Gods could not retrieve it. The Emperor stood alone in the ruined throne room, his favored son dead by his own hand. He had won. The heresy was broken. Terra would survive, but at what cost? Rogel Dorn found the Emperor barely alive. There was only one option to preserve his life: the Golden Throne. The Emperor agreed to this living death. There was no other choice. They carried him to the Golden Throne, and there he remains this day, 10,000 years later. He is the Carrion Lord, the master of mankind. The Imperium he built has become everything he fought against, a corrupt, stagnant theocracy. But it endures, against all odds, despite 10,000 years of constant warfare. The Imperium survives. The Emperor's dream died on the vengeful spirit. But humanity itself endures, fighting an eternal war against the darkness, sustained by the sacrifice of its greatest hero, defending the dream
even as it has forgotten what that dream was. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
The death of Horus shattered the traitor legion's unity. Without their war master to coordinate them, the siege of Terra collapsed. The arrival of Gilliman and the Lion's reinforcements turned the tide. The traitors found themselves facing destruction. They fled into the Eye of Terror, a massive warp storm where reality and the immaterium mixed freely. There, in that nightmare realm, they would make their homes for the next 10,000 years. The traitor Primarchs who had survived underwent their final transformations. Angron, Mortarion, Fulgrim, and Magnus all ascended to become demon princes, immortal creatures of the warp who could no longer permanently die. Perturbaro and Lorgar retreated into bitter isolation, consumed by their own failures and hatreds. The traitor legions became the Chaos Space Marines, waging an eternal war against the Imperium from the Eye of Terror. They launch black crusades, massive invasions aimed at Terra itself. None have succeeded, but the Imperium holds, though it pays in blood for every victory. The Imperium that emerged from the heresy was fundamentally changed. Gilliman, one of the few loyal Primarchs still able to function in the aftermath, implemented the Codex Astartes, a reorganization that broke the Space Marine legions into smaller chapters to prevent any one commander from wielding the power Horus had commanded. It was a bitter but necessary reform. The surviving loyal Primarchs dealt with their grief in different ways. Rogel Dorn threw himself into fortifying the Imperium. The Lion disappeared on a mission into the darkness of his homeworld. Vulcan vanished entirely, leaving behind only cryptic prophecies. Leman Russ eventually departed on a quest into the Eye of Terror, swearing he would return for the final battle. One by one, the Primarchs vanished from history, until none remained to guide humanity. The Imperium was left in the hands of mortals, the High Lords of Terra, imperfect beings trying to administrate a realm that spanned 1,000,000 worlds. 10,000 years have passed since the heresy ended. The Imperium is beset on all sides by chaos from within and without, by orcs and tyrannids and necrons, by 1,000 threats that seek humanity's extinction. The Emperor's dream of a rational, secular paradise is dust, but humanity endures, grim and stubborn, fighting for every day of survival. The heresy is remembered as the greatest tragedy in human history, the moment when mankind stood at the threshold of triumph and instead fell into an eternal war. Brother fought brother, father killed son. The brightest hope became the darkest despair. But it also revealed something essential about humanity. Even in the face of gods and demons, even when outnumbered and outmatched, humans could still choose to stand and fight. The lone warrior who stepped between Horus and the Emperor, knowing he would die, but doing it anyway. That is the spirit that allows the Imperium to survive. The heresy is not over. The long war continues. The traitor legions still raid from the Eye of Terror. the Emperor still sits upon his golden throne, watching, waiting, perhaps even planning. And across 1,000,000 worlds, billions of humans fight and die in his name, holding back the darkness for one more day. They are not heroes of legend, not transhuman demigods. They are ordinary men and women, armed with faith and steel, standing against horrors that should not exist, and somehow, impossibly, they hold the line. That is the legacy of the Horus Heresy. Not the glory of the Great Crusade, but something simpler and more profound. The refusal to surrender, no matter how dire the circumstances, no matter how heavy the cost. And perhaps, in some distant future, when the Emperor finally rises from his golden throne, or when humanity finds a new path forward, the sacrifices of the heresy will be redeemed. But until that day, the Imperium fights on, an empire built on the ashes of its greatest tragedy. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.